Thanks to Headamp for sponsoring this review. Headamp are the makers of the legendary Blue Hawaii electrostatic headphone amplifier, as well as the Gilmore series of amps, including the new GSX Mini, and they also sell the Empyrean headphones. If you're after a complete headphone system, do check out their site. It's quite amazing to think that a company, relatively new company out of Romania, has gone from making relatively inexpensive headphones and IEMs, and their next pair of headphones that they came out with is a $3,000 flagship. These remind me a lot of Sony in many respects because they're very well made down to the fine details, and they're very, very comfortable, from the very thick plush ear pads and then the reverse curved head pad that increases the contact area. Even at 430 grams, they just sit very nicely on your ears. And these hinges hold everything nicely in place. So even if I want to tilt the driver slightly forward, even if it breaks the seal, it'll stay there if you like. So they're very easy to get comfortable on your head. You have a reasonable amount of clamp. It's not too heavy, not too light. It's about spot on. The whole design, not just the fact that they use carbon fiber, but that everything is tensioned and balanced so well that it's kind of surprising that this is not from a very well-known major manufacturer. Sound-wise, I could do this review in a minute. I could just simply say, you take the Meze 99 Classics. They had what I called a slightly warmish consumer kind of tuning, which balances out nicely for all kinds of music, but isn't too peaky or sharp in the treble for modern music, which tends to be a bit compressed and can be a bit troublesome in the treble if when listening maybe a bit louder. If you take that and improve the sound quality to the same degree that these improve in design and construction and detail, well, that's what you get with the Empyrean. It's the same, 10 times the price. You can't really say 10 times the improvement, but in some ways you actually can. The sound, as I've already said, it's a bit warm of neutral, although as measurements that Jude Mansilla did on HeadFi, his measurements show flat. To us that comes across as a bit warm, and they don't, unlike other high-end headphones, such I've got the Hi-Fi Man Susvaras and I've got the Focal Utopias here. Both of these tend to have a bit of a brighter sound in the treble. Also the HE1000s are another example, which are even brighter than the Susvaras. For example, the Susvaras tend to feel like they have a little bit of a V shape to the sound, so the mids are a little bit recessed, giving a little bit more excitement, but these are kind of flat and neutral. But the remarkable thing about that is that even if they don't sound bright, they're very, very detailed. And the bass is fantastic. Not only does it go and extend down very low, that even beating the Susvaras, at least in my opinion, when even powered out of a speaker amp, the bass detail is absolutely incredible. The interesting thing was, after I made those observations, I went and had a look at Jude's measurements, and the distortion figures show 10 times less distortion than Sennheiser's HD800S. In other words, 1/10 the distortion. So 10 times better than other flagship headphones. That's pretty remarkable, and it's one of the factors that make these different. And it comes, thinking about Sony again, Sony had their old R10s, and there would tend to be two versions, bass light and bass heavy. The bass heavy tended to sound quite warm, but they were unique in high-end headphones, probably the first true high-end headphone, in that they gave a presentation that was different to things like Sennheiser's HD800, which albeit came out 20 years later, but nothing ever quite matched that ability to give very warm and punchy sound and be good for all genres, not just kind of audiophile music. And these, I think, could be very much a logical successor. A fellow Australian reviewer suggested that the Empyreans may just be the best headphones in the world. Now, given us Aussies aren't big on those kinds of definitive and dramatic statements, that's pretty big coming from him. But I think he may have a point. You see, normally when I'm listening to music, I'll be listening with Focal's Utopias or Hi-Fi Man Susvaras, and those headphones are tuned more towards good quality music. Very often it's like classical, jazz, acoustic music with vocals, say acoustic guitar, that kind of thing, where you really get out the fine details of that music coming through. But a lot of modern music is very compressed. You don't have that kind of detail. The compression often makes it sound glary and irritating, and especially if the headphones are a bit bright, that can be not so much fun to listen to. So the Empyreans, on the other hand, are tuned more warmer, and so I can listen to that music more easily because even though the music is glaring and bright, these don't have a very glaring bright treble. So it makes a lot of more music very easy to listen with, especially the bass that goes down very low and has enough depth and strength to it to kind of bring out the entertainment value in that music. That makes the Empyreans great at being all-round headphones because I can also listen to the high-quality music I usually like listening with those other headphones, with the Empyreans, and enjoy that as well. A lot of headphones, if you turn the volume up, they tend to become a bit too shouty. Especially if they're a bit brighter like these, they can tend to become a bit fatiguing. Now, I don't listen loud, maybe at about 80 decibels, sometimes a little bit louder, but being able to turn up the volume and then keep that coherency in the headphones, that's what made these very fantastic for me. The Hugo 2 very clearly defines the music through depth and detail and very revealing of the quality of headphones, and I enjoy listening directly out of the Hugo 2 very often. And with the Empyrean, they were demonstrated at meets out of the Hugo 2, and it is definitely a good match. But some people find it too much of an accurate kind of laser on the music. And sometimes, especially with lesser quality recordings, I've been listening to Massive Attack lately, which is a great combination with these, even though they do reveal the compression in Massive Attack. I've had to turn down the filters in the Hugo 2 to make it easier to listen with. But likewise, the slightly more euphoric, warm-sounding Hollow Springs DAC is also a little bit more mellow and a little bit more a nicer match with that kind of music. Another factor which some people don't like talking about is the cable. And the stock cable with these is something that reminds me a lot of the stock cable that comes with headphones like Sony, for example. And like Sony's MDR Z1Rs, a cable upgrade tended to just push things a little bit more in the direction of better sound. Trevor of Norn Audio sent me this Silver Guard. It's a silver cable, and it balanced things up in the headphones compared to the stock cable, such that I'd say, even though these are $3,000 headphones, I think for a lot of buyers they're going to be $3,500 headphones or thereabouts, because I think a lot of people will go for the aftermarket cable or an aftermarket cable for a few $100s more. Another reason to get an aftermarket cable for the Empyreans is that the stock cable is 3 meters long, and that's fine if you're sitting, say, on your sofa and the stereo system's across the room. You want to listen that way, but for most of us who have our gear on our desks, or maybe we're using portable gear, that's way too long. Another reason, you might want to get a different termination, such as this 4.4mm Pentagon connection for some of the new DAPs that are available. Speaking of portable gear, though, portable DAPs such as this FIO M9 will drive the Empyreans reasonably okay if you don't listen too loud. But if you do turn up the volume, you do start to notice that maybe it hasn't got quite enough power for these, as the music starts to lose its coherency and it can't really push the drivers well enough. So in that, you probably want to consider something a little bit more powerful. A far better option would be something like this Audio GD Master 9. The Audio GD amps have always been very good at driving planar headphones, and it's very clean, clear, and completely get-out-of-the-way presentation. Just allowing the music through makes for a great match with the Empyreans. There are also other amps in the $1,500 price range which would be great with the Empyreans, such as Soundaware's P1 if you want a more sweeter kind of sound. You have the Hollow Springs Azure, which is very similar and kind of get out of the way and just let the music through as the Master 9 is. And in a different kind of flavor, you have the Dragon Inspire IHA1 from Moon Audio, which being a tube amp, its sound will be very dependent on the tube selected. Any of those combined with something like Schiit Audio's Yggdrasil or a similar high-end DAC will make for a great endgame system with the Empyreans. If you're looking for something different, there's also iFi's Pro IDSD. With its optional tube modes and digital filters, you can fine-tune the sound to just how you want it. It also has a great headphone amp that works very well with the easy-to-drive Empyreans, and some people actually prefer this over Chord's Hugo 2 because of what I would describe as its more engaging sound. Lastly, you have the Alcantara earpads. As well as providing a different kind of comfort option to the stock leather earpads, they also change the sound very slightly. With the stock cable, I found they rolled off the highs even more, which made the whole headphone a little bit too dull for my tastes. But with the addition of the silver cable, I actually found that the Alcantara earpads maybe took a little tiny bit of edge off the balance that the silver gave, and I found them a very good match for general listening, although maybe the slightly more exciting sound with the leather earpads on would probably be preferable if I was to make a choice, one or the other. Once again, thanks for watching my review. As always, I welcome constructive feedback, so any questions, comments or criticisms, please do leave them in the comments below the video. Lastly, thanks to Headamp for sponsoring this video. If you do like the Empyreans, please do consider buying them from Headamp Electronics. Also, thanks to my patrons for supporting this video. If you'd like to see these videos in advance without ads, please do consider becoming a supporter for as little as $2 a month. You also get to get my direct advice and join our community of like-minded audio enthusiasts. So thanks once again for watching, and I'll see you online.